So I'm going to talk about this Gaza situation again. And I must say, I am heartened by the fact that so many people are seeing this the same way I am, which is they're just furious with Israel. And there are notable exceptions to that. But first of all, I want to say that I really am. Well, yeah, the exceptions that got me going today was Donny Deutsch, whom I generally like, just like Bill Maher, whom I used to like a lot. I feel like I've lost a personal friend. But both of them start off with this nonsense that these young people are just looking at, innocent civilians being blown to bits, and they're not looking at the big picture. Because I guess, these young people are as dumb today as we were when we were young people, and we were so adamantly opposed to the Vietnam War because of the atrocities that we correctly perceived that we were committing in Vietnam. So, and of course, if you said that then, you were like, you were a commie and a traitor and yada, yada, yada. So now we have these people like Donny Deutsch and Bill Maher and others saying, well, these people are not looking at the full story. They're too stupid, I guess, too young, too immature, just like that, the generation in the 60s was, oh yeah, that was our generation. Yeah, we weren't stupid and ignorant, and neither are they. The idea that all these students at Harvard, as one example, and at Michigan is another example where I went to school, Michigan, you know what Harvard is, that's Michigan without a football team. We don't have to get into that. So, that all these students and their faculty are so stupid that they don't realize that Israel's disgusting behavior was the fault of Hamas, because Hamas came over and killed some Israelis in a horrible fashion. There's no one in the world, nobody in the world I know of thinks that was okay. But that all these people, they don't realize that Hamas started this. And Israel has a right to defend herself, and Israel is attacking in order to stop Hamas from having another event. So this is Israel defending herself from Hamas. And these kids are just too dumb to realize that. Well, guess what? I ain't a kid. Right? I'm significantly older than Bill Maher, and significantly much older than that stupid Donny Deutsch, whom I used to like. And he sits up there and he said, and I saw him today on Morning Joe, and he says, he didn't talk like that, I talk like that. Try to make a point, okay, to spice this program up a little bit, otherwise you get bored of hearing me say the same thing over and over again, but it bears repeating. Why? Because I said it, that's why. And I repeat myself, it bears repeating. So Donny Deutsch says, what they should do is every time they show Israeli bombing the hell out of Gaza, they should then show side by side this clip that was taken of some Hamas people pulling some innocent Israelis out of a car and shooting them, and that would then put everything in perspective. But these young people, they're not aware of that. Like, who's not aware of that? The problem with his reasoning, if you can call it that, is he's equating the civilian population of Gaza, including thousands of children, with these vicious, I don't know what to call them, psychopaths, street gangs that came over in their pickup trucks with machine guns and committed horrible atrocities and killed 1,200 Israelis. Well, that was a terrible thing to do. And if they could catch the people that did it, they should hang them. Hang them high. But that's not what Israel's doing. Israel is bombing the hell out of civilians, particularly children. You can't tell me, well, these children were over there with Hamas and they were shooting and they were raping and they were doing horrible things to these Israeli civilians. I don't think 6-year-old kids were involved in that. And I don't think 6-year-old kids should be killed because of what some people at Hamas did. And if you don't see that, then there's something wrong with your moral compass, Donny. Stop equating Hamas with the Gazan people. Stop justifying what Israel is doing because of what Hamas did. And it's not necessary for Israel to defend itself against Hamas, because the only way Israel can exist at all without its very existence being challenged every day is to go into all over Gaza and root out every single member of Hamas, which they're never going to do, and kill them all. That's the only way Israel can be safe. Of course, Israel could have been safe if they'd gotten troops in there right away. They could have been safe if Israel, which knew a year in advance about this attack, had put troops along the border to protect the people there. It was preventable. This was not an attack on Israel. Israel has a massive army. Hamas has no army. Hamas has no planes. Hamas has no tanks. Hamas has no flamethrowers. Hamas has no drones to speak of. They may have one or two, I don't know. Everybody has some drones. Even my dog, Francois, has drones. But we don't need to get into that. Let's just leave him out of this now. I'm not sure he and I even agree on this. I'm not even sure he's aware of what's going on. He's like Donny, Deutsch, and Bill Maher. He doesn't know what's going on. So it's like Hamas is not an army. And the the people in Gaza are sitting there with no way to defend themselves. I saw somebody, I think maybe it was Donny, somebody said, and it's not like, Hamas isn't attacking Israel. Why they're shooting rockets at Israel all the time? And then he paused and said, of course, our Iron Dome that we gave them is knocking all those down, so they're not causing any harm. In the meantime, Gaza doesn't have an Iron Dome. Gaza has no protection at all. They've dropped thousands of these 2,000-pound bombs all over. They've just taken Gaza City, where there were like well over 1 million people living. It's rubble. And now they can't even get supplies in there to the people who are left behind, because Israel ordered them all to move out of there because they were going to destroy basically the only real city in Gaza. So to sit there and say, well, that's what Hamas did, therefore it's okay. You know what this is? It reminds me of? It'd be as if a street gang went out and shot some people robbing a bank or something, and then they ran and hid in Harlem. And the powers that be in New York said, well, these gang members are somewhere in Harlem. We understand they have tunnels and they have hideaways, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to bomb Harlem. We're going to bomb Harlem out of existence. There were 200 people in this gang. There's tens of thousands of people living in Harlem. We're going to kill all of them so that we can get at those gang members. We're going to kill children. We're going to kill women. We're going to kill elderly senior citizens like Maher. We're going to kill all those people because we need to protect ourselves in case that gang should try to come out again and attack people in New York. It's beyond belief that rational people would say things like that. And yet there's Donny Deutsch with a platform to speak to the whole country every morning on Morning Joe saying that. And, and people push back a little bit, but, how about this and how about that? There was a delegation that just gone over and met with Netanyahu, and they talked to him about the concern that Israel is losing the support of the world. And they said, well, what did he say back? And they said, well, he didn't really say anything. He just kind of sat there and looked at us. And I said, well, what did you take? Well, the Hamas had a big part to do in this, and Israel's got to be safe and secure from Hamas, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, find another way to do it. Find another way to do it. But don't justify all this killing and then turn around and say, oh, these people in colleges and universities, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't have the wisdom that we do. Every time I hear that, I have deja vu all over again about being in college and listening to these people saying the same kind of thing about Vietnam. Oh, these kids, they just don't know anything. Well, I knew a little more than most because my father was a colonel in the Air Force, and he was involved in the negotiations after the Battle of Dien Bien Phu when they had the Geneva Accords. So I grew up learning about Vietnam and knowing about what happened in Vietnam, so I knew more than most. But, my fellow students came along a little bit later. I never demonstrated because I thought that was counterproductive, and I still think it's counterproductive. But for the people back then saying we didn't know what we were talking about, and these people today saying these kids don't know what they're talking about, they're losing young people, but young people get all their information from TikTok. Well, I happen to think they probably get their information from me. They just don't want to admit it. I can't really blame them for that. Talk to you later. Bye. But and I'm sorry if I get mad, but I think you should get mad too. What's going on there is wrong, and more people are seeing it. And Israel is going to cease to exist because the young people in this country, those horrible young people, are growing up really detesting Israel. Israel has lost the moral high ground completely. They should have lost it a long time ago with this Netanyahu thug, but they're losing it. They're not going to get it back. These people are going to be the adults of tomorrow after I'm long gone, and they're not going to be voting to give money to Israel and to give arms to Israel to support Israel in the United Nations. They're going to be telling their people, their representatives, "Don't you do it? Don't you do it?" We remember what Israel did, and we're not going to support Israel anymore. And without the United States, Israel's gone. And, Mr. Netanyahu should realize that, and Joe Biden should get a clue too. Stop asking for billions of dollars in aid to bolster Israel's military when they're abusing it the way they are. So that's it. I'm not going to talk about this anymore today, at least not to you. I'm going to go talk to my dog about it.